Nick Toka. Today is May 8th, 2025, episode 113. We have a lot to get into. We have a new Pope Leo. We've got some great trade tariff agreements between the States and Britain that we're definitely going to deep dive, and Dow gains 250 points on this. Bitcoin reclaims 105,000. In fact, it was at 105K after Trump promotes this UK deal. BitcoinPrice flashes signals that has led to a surge every time. Let's get into that historical factor. And huge news, the OCC gives banks the green light to offer Bitcoin and crypto custody and trading services. All this and so much more on today's show. Welcome, folks, to Crypto News Global. I am your host, Nick Toka. Big news out of the Vatican. Pope Leo, the newest pope. It was actually Pope Francis's choice, apparently, and this will become the first pope out of the U.S., out of Chicago. So congratulations to Catholics around the world. And great news on the financial front, just as we were talking about so many times when everybody was saying, trade war, trade war, trade war, send in the troops, sell everything you've got, oh my god, oh my god. And here at Crypto News Global, we were saying, these sound like negotiation tactics to us. Let's buy the fucking dip. And of course we all did, right? Now we are reaping the rewards. So let's check out what happened today in the good old US of A. I'm going to crank up the sound a little bit so we can hear this well. Now let's get right into it.
If only the Panicans had waited. President Trump scoring his first trade deal since Liberation Day with the United Kingdom, and teasing more countries to follow as he fights for a fairer playing field in the global market. 47 charming the bloody socks off the Brits while in the Oval, and even made them laugh at his jokes about the Democrats.
With this deal, the UK joins the United States in affirming that reciprocity and fairness is an essential and vital principle of international trade.
This is a really fantastic, historic day in which we can announce this deal between our two great countries.
The Democrats are fighting it only because they want to fight. They have Trump derangement syndrome. Senator Schumer's become a Palestinian. Buttigieg, who has no clue. You know, he drives to work on his bicycle with his, in all fairness, with his husband on the back, which is a nice, loving relationship.
My God. But a win for America is a blow to the liberals who are rooting for 47 to fail. The press wasting no time to whine about the deal.
Does it live up to the hype we just heard from the president?
The answer to that is obviously not at all. I might have thought it was a trade deal on fertilizer because there was a bit of that.
This deal between the two countries is not actually going to be anyone majorly significant.
I mean, it sounds like this is a marginal deal and that it's not that big of a deal.
Ah, Jesse, you knew that was going to come.
Yeah.
Because they can't stand the successes.
No, and if you're rooting against this, you're rooting against the country. Because
Yeah, so there you have it. If you're rooting against this, you're rooting against the country. Congratulations,
the next president,
Democrats.
whether it's a Republican or Democrat, they're going to keep these deals.
Yeah.
They're going to tinker with them, but we're moving towards deglobalization and reindustrialization, and he's setting us up on a great course. They have.
Yeah, so Dems, as usual, always taking the worst out of it. However, the markets are loving it, and in fact, this is any deal, any closure of a deal, folks. The markets have been looking for an off-ramp here. They've been looking for any kind of good news on these tariffs. Number one, they completely over-exaggerated and overblew these whole tariff war bullshit that they were talking, right? Half the smart people were saying this is a way to negotiate better deals for the U.S., and the Dems and the dummies were saying, oh my God, sell everything you've got. Everything's going to zero. Oh my God, oh my God. And then the smart folks were saying, oh, fantastic. You're selling your Bitcoin. I can get it at a cheaper price. Swing. Right? Buying the fucking dip. We were. So a little hilarious how things go. The Bitcoin technical analysis shows us that Bitcoin is up 5%. It was up actually over 6.5%, almost hitting 105,000 at one point today, sitting just under 103,000 right now. Ethereum, shockingly up 20%. Damn. $2,193. Solana up 10%, $162. XRP up 8%, $2.30. Sui up 16%, $4. Doge up 12% to 19 cents. Checking out the crypto bubbles for the day. Everything up except Form. Poor Form. Look at that red dot all by itself there. Tisk. We've got Virtual up 47%, Brett 38%, Pepe up 31%. You know, everything, everywhere you look, Injective up 16%, AVAX, Avalanche up 12%, Trump up 18%. Checking out the weekly gains. Again, we are at 95% of these things are in the green for the week, including Virtual up 24%, Pepe up 24%, Pudgy Little Penguins up 30%. And for the month, Pengo, damn, up 256%, Virtual up 370%, Brett up 200%, Trump up 81%. Sui, damn, up 112%. Tau up 118%. Everything in the green for the month. Every single thing in the green. There's one tiny little red dot. Leo token. Oh, not sure what they're doing, but it seems that I would stay away from Leo token because it's the only thing in the red for the month. Well, there's one more other tiny thing. Dexy. Never heard of it. Total hash rate. It has again taken the turn upward from yesterday where it took a little downturn. Now total hash rate is at 910 billion terahashes a second. And we see the Bitcoin price is following the hash rate like we always talk about. The M2 global money supply, again, very, very closely following. With the Biddy almost identical, Bitcoin following literally 3 months, 2 to 3 months after, exactly the same pattern as the M2 global money supply. Checking out the Bitcoin market cap, it is over $2 trillion right now, $2.045 trillion. Ethereum, 265 billion. XRP, 135 billion. Solana, 84 billion. Doge, 29 billion. Cardano, 27 billion. Tron, 24.5 billion. Sui, moving up to the number 11, 13 billion. Wow. It went from, I think, 8.5 billion yesterday. Huge jump. Chainlink up. Currently at 10 billion, and AVAX $9 billion market cap. Total market cap from yesterday is up $2 billion, currently at 3.18 trillion, with Bitcoin holding 64.5% of that, Ethereum 8.3%, XRP 4.27%. Crypto Fear and Greed Index brings us to a 73 in greed. Yesterday was 65 in greed. Last week was a 67 in greed. There's a 1,070 days until the next Bitcoin halving in 2028. There's 154,102 blocks until the next halving. Total market cap by asset globally, we've got gold at 22 trillion, Microsoft 3.2 trillion, Apple 2.9 trillion, Nvidia 2.8 trillion. Bitcoin jumping a bunch of the big boys now, currently sitting in the number 5 position at 2.04 trillion. Amazon 2.03 trillion, behind the biddy now, and Google also behind the biddy at 1.8 trillion. Silver 1.8 trillion, Saudi Aramco 1.6 trillion, and Fuckbook at 1.5 trillion bucks. You can currently get 973 satoshis for $1. We talked about it yesterday, that number wasn't going to be over 1,000 for very long, and just like that, one day later, you can no longer get 1,000 satoshis for one fiat US dollar. U.S. national debt currently sitting at 36,825 billion, equaling 107,581 per U.S. citizen, or 323,050 per U.S. taxpayer. Doge has saved U.S. taxpayers $409 billion, equaling to $3,640 per taxpayer. Big chunks being saved. Hallelujah, we should be saying, for Elon and Doge, instead of people burning down his world's best electric car, 100% made in America. They should be instead praising this guy. They just saved him. They just saved you $3,640 in 3 months. $1,200 a month almost. That is not chump change, everybody. So we'll see what they end up doing with the money. I think the savings might end up actually going back to the people in terms of checks. So talk about making people happy. If that happens, oh boy, look out. The approval rating for Trump is going to change dramatically, because right now everybody's in this tariff thing and brainwashed by the media. We all know that. I don't know. Turn off CNN, everybody. Come on. And in Canada, turn off the frickin' CBC. These are all, I know in Canada, it's CBC state funded to the point of $1 billion a year for that broadcasting company, and the Canadian broadcasting company. And in the States, I think it's Turner who owns CNN. Regardless, these guys are all getting their news from the same source, and it seems to me that that source is corrupt. So I would highly recommend getting a good overall perspective from the internet. I know it sounds crazy, right? Never believe what you read on the internet. However, one or two people might be off. Of course, right? But as a collective on the web, all these broadcasters, they can't all be wrong. As a collective, they've got things right. When it goes to mainstream media, however, there's only the Reuters who's passing out the news to everybody. So there's one news source, and whatever they tell them to say, that's what they say, because the news feed comes into the broadcasting company. Comes through a little modem. I used to run this thing, guys. A little modem about yay big. The news feed comes in. It comes in like a DOS, just plain text, basically. Then the editor takes that plain text, draws out on it a little bit, but the story is still what Reuters is pushing you. So anytime you see the national news, it doesn't matter which channel you're on, they have, when, 6 o'clock comes, the national news, right? That's the first thing that comes on. It's all the same. After that, fireman saves kitty out of a tree, these kind of local stories. Of course, these are legit local stories. made by the journalists who go out there and worked in this industry. They go out there on the truck with the driver, who's also the cameraman, and they go to these little local stores, generally about 3 a day, 2 to 3 a day, or they might just focus on one story, and they'll go out to different sites. They will do their recording on a different site, and then they come back with their story of the day, right? But the national broadcast, the headlines you see, they are all the same, and they are all pushed by Reuters, folks, to every broadcasting company that you see, every media, every channel you see. So when I say you're better to get more objective news from the internet, there's a lot of data behind that. And again, one or two people might be wrong, but as a collective, you're getting more reliable information from the web and YouTube and Rumble than you are on the standard channels that you get, CNN, NBC, blah, 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 blah. So branch out a little bit if you haven't, and it's good to get some objective news from some objective people, because the people on the web, they've got nothing to gain, right? Some people with these 100,000 subscribers and all that, and millions of subscribers, they're making money, but most people aren't making jack all. They're just doing it for the love of it, the enjoyment of it, and to help people ultimately. That's what I try to do in my broadcast. Now, the Dow gained 250 points. Bitcoin reclaimed 100,000 after promoting the UK deal, and everything jumped. We saw the video there. Boeing stock. Who the fuck cares about Boeing stock, guys? Well, that included a $10 billion order for Boeing aircraft from London right off the hop. That's why they're mentioning it. Trump also hinted at what he described as the biggest tax cut in history, predicting that the U.S. economy would soar like a rocket ship. Yeah, you see, I predicted this too. Everybody's bashing on this guy for what turns out to be him trying to get better deals for the states. What is he going to do? Go and tell the world what his strategy is? Of course not, right? He has to leave people in the dark, and the people in the dark, of course, are the Democrats and the people who are living on every word that they talk about at CNN, and oh my God, whatever they say, this is the story of the century, and trade war, they dub it, right? There was no, Trump didn't say, I'm creating a trade war. No, he called it Liberation Day, right? Completely the opposite. You see how they turn this? U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bassett and Trade Rep Jameson Greer are set to meet with their Chinese counterparts in Switzerland over the weekend to discuss the trade economic issues with China. So, lots of good things coming up. Now, I suspect that by next week, look at that beautiful AI picture, right? I suspect by next week, maybe even on the weekend, but I'm thinking they are going to wait for Monday. But I could be wrong. Maybe they're going to announce this thing on the weekend with progressive, positive talks with China. And they might even come out and say, we have struck a deal with China. Now, one thing to note about all of these trade deals, these are, I don't know how fast they're going to push these out, right? These are templates, which might take weeks, months, or even, a year to kind of finalize. Having said that, the templates could include, just the same way Trump came out and said, we're putting 20% tariff, 25%, and then dropped it to 10, and then made it 200 and whatever to China. They could also say, just, as per a handshake, right? As per a deal, we are now lowering the tariffs between China and U.S. to 10%. So people are living on this news they're on the edge of their seat like the fool Carney was yesterday in the White House. So if this news is announced over the weekend, so they're having the talks with China and Switzerland, if they come out and say, we have struck a deal, for now, we're going to lower the tariffs to 10% between the two countries, or to 0 between the two countries, and until we complete the negotiations, expect the crypto market to boom, fellas. And Monday morning, expect the traditional financial markets to boom, but the Biddy will have the head start. And I wouldn't be surprised, overly surprised anyway, if something like this was announced on the weekend. However, I do feel like if negotiations go well and some kind of deal is struck, it's going to be announced on Monday. Now, Trump, I haven't heard more about this, but apparently there is some huge announcement he's going to make, he said, the latest Monday. So let's see what actually happens. The announcement might come in tomorrow. It might be about these huge tax breaks. He said it's going to be the biggest positive announcement made in decades in the U.S. So kind of curious to see what happens with that. And you know, the same way I called it as well, right? The same way when everybody's talking trade war, trade this, trade that, tariffs, when things go positive, like today, negotiations and trade agreement created with the UK. Once we see the positive, I anticipate that the same way the markets went down, the markets are going to go up, as we saw today, right? There was almost a God candle today in Bitcoin. Bitcoin price flashes signals that has led to a surge every time historically. Let's get right into the story. The Bitcoin price action has once again caught the attention of the broader crypto market as it flashes major bullish signals that have, without fail, led to significant rallies throughout the cycle. Building on this technical signal, a crypto analyst has forecasted that Bitcoin could mirror historical trends and potentially surge to a new all-time high. Yeah, no frickin' kidding. Bollinger Band signals hints at Bitcoin price rally. A closer look at Bitcoin's weekly chart presented by Bitcoin Census on X reveals a critical pattern that has only appeared 4 times since 2022. Each occurrence has marked the beginning of a strong upward movement in Bitcoin's price, making it a highly bullish setup. The signal in question is the Bollinger Bands, which is known to identify potential reversal zones. The analysis shows that Bitcoin has recently touched the lower Bollinger Band on a weekly chart and bounced upward, confirming a support level that historically acted as a springboard to sustain bullish momentum. This marks the 5th time this specific signal has occurred during the cycle. Each of the past 4 signals, highlighted by the white circles on the chart, was followed by a strong price rally. So here we are, each time a strong price rally. So we're then anticipating a strong price rally. Notably, in 2023, Bitcoin rallied from below 2,000 to over 30,000 following the appearance of this Bollinger Band signal. A similar pattern played out in mid-2023 when this setup triggered a surge that pushed Bitcoin above 45 grand. Later that year, the same signal preceded a breakout with BTC soaring past 60,000. More recently, in early 2024, the Bollinger Band signal sparked a parabolic run above 100 grand. Now, in quarter 2 of 2025, Bitcoin is once again flashing the historically reliable indicator. Its price found a strong support near the 77.5 level, with resistance levels above 106,000. As the Bollinger Bands align, Bitcoin Census predicts a potential rally toward 130,000 to 160,000. This would mark a historical all-time high for Bitcoin, representing a maximum increase of over 46.7% from its current all-time high above 109 grand. BTC poised for a breakup. Price nears 100,000 again. Yeah. Loving it. I feel like this Bollinger Band predictor is very likely going to be bang on again. Let's take a look again at the chart. It's kind of tiny on screen. That's all we're going to get. Yeah, that's all we're going to get. But we do see they've circled out the historical trends. They have also circled out here that the Bitcoin price, look, after the circle, it kind of slid sideways and then huge bounce. And we're seeing the same thing here. It slid sideways, and again, we're hopefully predicting a huge bounce on that one. Huge story of the day is that OCC gives banks the green light to offer Bitcoin and crypto custody and trading services. So it's almost like, what exactly caused this huge jump today in the price? Was it the U.S. tariff negotiation and deal with the UK, or was it that the OCC gave the banks the green light to offer Bitcoin and crypto custody and trading services? The OCC's latest guidance clarifies that national banks and federal savings associations can offer cryptocurrency custody and trading services, including outsourcing to third-party providers, as long as they adhere to risk management practices and regulatory compliance. So what that means is banks can now custody your Bitcoin, offer you trading services, so they now can compete with Coinbase, for example, as long as they adhere to risk management practices and regulatory compliance. So what that basically means is they have to give you information about the stock. They have to do, if you notice a long time ago, you never really had to, you could just, go on whatever, any one of these exchanges, buy Biddy, sell Biddy, never asked any questions, never asked any personal stuff, hardly even your address and things like that. But now they have to not only get this information from you, your personal information, but they also have to ask you these risk management questions, which is like, what is your, investment knowledge? What do you know about crypto? What do you know about Bitcoin? How much knowledge do you have? Low, medium, high? What's your risk tolerance? Low, medium, high? So as long as they answer these questions, they're adhering to risk management practices, right? This is basically, these risk management practices are effectively the bullshit that allows them to get off the hook from being sued if they lose you lose all your money, because they say that, oh, well, they told us they know everything about Bitcoin, and we have now put them in the higher risk. They're allowed to trade more, and they're allowed to trade these higher risk coins because they said that they know a lot about this industry. And what, they know what they're doing. Now, if you answered the opposite and said, I don't know anything, I have a small amount of money, my risk tolerance is low, then they will actually limit the amount you can invest. And they might even limit the coins, in fact, that you can invest in. But as long as they're adhering to this risk management practices and regulatory compliance, they are now allowed to offer Bitcoin and crypto custody and trading services. The Office of the Comptroller of the Currency has issued new guidance confirming that national banks and federal savings associations can engage in crypto asset custody and trading services. So national banks. So this is not like your little trade union, folks. This is like everybody can now offer you the biddy. This clarification comes in Interpretive Letter 1184, which outlines the banks may buy and sell digital assets held in custody at their customers' direction, and may also outsource crypto-related activities, such as custody and execution services, to third parties. However, banks must ensure they implement proper third-party risk management processes. This decision is important in the OCC's guidance, enabling banks to participate more actively in the rapidly growing cryptocurrency market, which now includes over 50 million Americans. The OCC's updated rules are part of its ongoing efforts to ensure the banks can responsibly engage in emerging financial technologies while protecting consumer and complying with acceptable laws. So, this is 100% bullshit, right? Like, ongoing efforts to ensure banks can responsibly enable banks to participate more actively in the rapidly growing cryptocurrency market, which what this basically means is now they can make money off you on the crypto side as well. That's pretty much what this means. This is why they're doing it. Make no mistake, folks, the banks are not in to help you, right? They have seen, there's $3 trillion in the crypto. There's $2 trillion in Bitcoin. How can we make money off our customers using this? Regardless of my viewpoint, this is definitely a progressive step forward. We have to admit, if we said a year or 2 years ago or 5 years ago that every bank, national bank in the States and Federal Savings Association can engage in asset custody and trading services for crypto, people would think we were nuts. But here it is, live, and it's a fact. Rodney Hood, acting comptroller of the currency, CC, stupid name, OCC, emphasized in the video that this digitization of financial services is not a trend, it's a transformation. He further explained that the regulated banks can provide custody services, including the safekeeping and secure storage of Bitcoin and other digital assets on behalf of their customers. How nice of them. Additionally, the banks we supervise also may buy and sell cryptocurrencies they hold in custody at their customers' discretion. So here we go, right? This is kind of this is it. This is like the fractional reserve theory, where you put in $1 into the bank and then they lend it out to 20 people. So they're effectively now want to take your bitty and then they're going to make money on your bitty, right? It seems that that's what that statement's showing. The letter further states that the banks can provide other important services such as record keeping, tax reporting, and compliance services. The OCC also made it clear that the banks may use sub-custodians to provide these services, but only subject to appropriate third-party risk management practices. So the bank can basically say, we don't have the infrastructure to deal with crypto. However, we will use Bitcoin to Coinbase to custody our Bitcoin for us, and then Coinbase is they're going to get their cut, the bank is going to get their cut, and then you're going to get your cut. Rodney Hood also emphasized that while a range of cryptocurrency and digital asset activities may be performed by banks and their third parties, I want to be clear that the OCC expects these activities to be conducted in a safe, sound manner and in compliance with applicable law. The clarification from OCC is significant and it gives banks the ability to meet the growing demand for cryptocurrency-related services while ensuring they maintain security and comply with regulatory standards. In the video, Hood stressed that the digital shift is not just changing the way people engage with money, but transforming the entire financial landscape. For banks, this presents an opportunity to broaden their offerings by providing services related to digital assets in addition to traditional financial services. As Hood pointed out, the regulated banks can now help customers manage their crypto portfolios just as they would traditional assets with services like tax reporting and transaction recording. However, banks must ensure that they manage the risk involved in crypto custody. The OCC's emphasis on safe and sound operation means that any crypto-related activity must be carried out securely and in full compliance with the law. This updated guidance from the OCC marks an important step in integrating digital assets into the regulated financial system. With these clear rules in place, national banks are better positioned to serve customers while ensuring that crypto-related activities are conducted responsibly and securely. Right. So congratulations to the banks of America, but nacho keys, nacho cheese, right? That's the old saying. So the best alternative, as always, which hasn't changed, is self-custody, folks. Let's make that clear. So, and personally, I just feel like the banks are going to take their cut. Somewhere they're going to be taking a cut. I would rather put my money in, Coinbase or one of these places than the bank. But there are a lot of people that they won't know how to self-custody, number one. Maybe they don't even know about how to create a crypto account on one of these exchanges. But you're 70 years old, you want to put some money into Bitcoin, but you don't know how to, or you don't want to open new accounts, but you do have a bank account. Suddenly, this is going to be a new offering. So they go into, refinance whatever they've got, change their money into bonds, let's say, or reallocate something into new stocks, maybe their dollar cost averaging over the years, and their financial advisor might give them some recommendation. Hey, maybe you should put 5% into Bitcoin. Look, a smarter financial advisor would say, maybe you should put half your money into Bitcoin. However, I don't even think they're allowed to say that, again, due to this lawsuit stuff. So they can't, for somebody whose entire job is called a financial advisor, they can't actually financially advise you, which is interesting, unless of course you sign off and give them all your money and allow them to do the financing for you, but they can't actually give you advice. This is how it works. Kind of interesting. Well, I am actually very happy for that. I'm very curious to see what happens with Trump and the boys over in Switzerland with the China talks. And I'm also even more curious to see what this announcement is that he says is going to be the biggest announcement ever in decades. Biggest positive announcement, not negative anything. Positive, biggest, best announcement maybe heard in a very, very long time. So let's see how that goes down. I think it's going to be pretty cool, and I think it's going to be huge for the Biddy and the financial market. Good morning, Billy Grande. Thank you for joining. You must be over in Europe or Asia, so good morning to you. Over here, it's the opposite. But thanks for joining. We've got viewers from all around the world. Much appreciated for everybody joining. And as always, we want you guys to engage as much as possible. And, of course, share, like, subscribe for sure, because I'm on a path to have over 500 subscribers shortly. Folks, let's talk financial literacy for a second before going. There is $900,000 of assets around the world. Go out there and get your share of them. They're not going to come to you. You need to go get it. But it's out there. Time is what's scarce, so use your time wisely. I recommend using it for education and financial literacy. These kind of things, they don't teach you in school. I've got great books in my comments that are 100% free. I've got links right to the YouTube, so you can listen to these things for free while you're driving, while you're chilling, while you're in the washroom or the shower or whatever, a little bit of the day. And before you know it, you've plowed through a whole book you've got this new knowledge and you're more financial literate, you'll be able to take more control of your money and don't let the banks control your money like the way they've been doing for decades and decades. And certainly everybody's parents that's on this line here, likely this has been exactly the case. The banks have been siphoning 2 to 4% as their management expenses, right? We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars over a person's lifetime. So take control of this yourself. I suggest reading these books in order, the way I've got them top to bottom. I have them like that for a reason. That would be my recommendation, but certainly you can go through and look at the titles and see what more suits you. If you want to learn on how to not be taken advantage by the banks and fucked up the kazoo the way they've been doing forever, a good book for that would be I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. I Will Teach You. It's the second one in the list, but I highly recommend starting from the top with the Bitcoin Standard. You'll learn a lot about money and the history of money before jumping into how and what to do with money, right? As part of this, please, folks, save more money than you spend. And if you start making more money, start saving more money. Don't start spending more money. Yeah, I'm making more money. Yeah, now I can buy the next good thing. You don't need all this shit. It used to be that you bought something and it was nice and it was built well and it lasted, right? Now, people replace one piece of plastic garbage 3 years later with a newer and fancier piece of plastic garbage. Just don't do it. Get into the habit. I was the same. I was Amazon. And you know what? After reading these books a couple of years ago, I was like, that's it. I'm not fucking spending shit. Like, for what? I don't need this. And you end up accumulating all this crap. And I've seen it with my folks. And all that happens with all this crap you accumulate is you end up throwing it out. It's not even you think that, oh, it's worth this, I can sell it. People lowball you, and you think something is great. You bought it for thousands of dollars. You think it's amazing. It's still like new. It's worth so much. And you try to sell it for, $300. It costs like $2,000. You sell it for $300. And you'd think people would be jumping on this thing. Oh, yeah, $300. I'll offer you $350, right? Bidding wars. No. They come in saying, well, okay, will you give me $50? I'll take it for $50. And it's like, no, go fuck yourself. You know what? I'd rather put it on the curb or give it to a neighbor and somebody who needs it rather than giving it to you for $50. So keep things, live within your means, right? That's all I'm saying. Hopefully you start investing when you're young, ideally in your late teens or early 20s, and you can retire when you're 40 or 45. Folks, imagine that, right? This is what everybody wants. And if you've got a great idea, start with it today. Don't wait for tomorrow. Even if you're not ready, start your idea. Hopefully things go well, but even if you fail, you will, number one, have the satisfaction to know that you at least went through with your idea. You won't have the regret of always thinking, oh, I wish I did this. Oh, when I was younger, I had this great idea, but I never did it. And then Jimmy took my idea. No, he didn't take your idea. He executed. It's not your idea. It's only your idea when you execute, right? So even if you fail, what's the big deal, right? You learn from the failure and you try again. So if you've got a great idea, start today, folks. Again, please share, like, and especially subscribe. This will help with the algorithms. It would be nice if I could gain a lot of subscribers. I think the information that I pass out every day is informative, accurate, and truthful. And of course, remember, as the banks say, this is not financial advice. But I can only tell you what I do, right? And take it at face value. Much appreciated, folks. Thanks so much for joining, and we will see you on the next stream. Have yourself a fantastic night.